South Korea, North Korea, and the U.S. The three sides face a critical week this week, with major developments quickly engulfing the Korean Peninsula following the failed Pyeongyang-Washington summit in Hanoi. North Korea has returned to the joint liaison office in Gaesong 3 days after its unilateral withdrawal, while U.S. President Trump's surprise tweet to reverse additional North Korea sanctions caught many off guard. To discuss in depth on the complicated trilateral relations among the two Koreas and the U.S., let's bring in Dr. Bong Young-shik of the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Good to have you with us.
Very pleased to be here.
So we're seeing surprising developments each day surrounding the Korean Peninsula. Just hours ago this morning, North Korea has made a surprise comeback to the joint liaison office, which is just days after its unilateral withdrawal.
Right.
How do you interpret the surprise comeback?
I think the Kim Jong-un leadership of North Korea is still in the middle of digesting the shock of the Hanoi summit meeting with the U.S. President Donald Trump, which resulted in no agreement. So Kim Jong-un leadership is probing different places in attempts to find certain exit points from a very difficult situation left by no agreement from Hanoi summit meeting. And at least for a while, the main target of these attempts by North Korean leadership will be South Korea instead of the United States. Because if North Korea is going to put too much pressure too quickly on Washington, like the resumption of the operation of Dongchang missile engine site, then it will invite harsh retaliation by the United States, like the sanctions on especially the ship-to-ship illegal transfer of oil, which is in violation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions. And the rest of the world will be siding with the United States in pointing out that dismantlement of the Dongchang missile engine site was a promise by North Korean leadership as a clear sign of its intention for complete denuclearization. So North Korea's credibility will be squashed. So at least in the short term, the focus of North Korea's pressure will be South Korean government. That is why the North Korean government has been calling the Moon Jae-in government to step up to the plate, to be a player or the stakeholder rather than the arbiter or the middle power between North Korea and the United States.
U.S. President Trump's tweet on reversing additional sanctions on North Korea has stirred up much confusion. He said he has ordered withdrawal of additional sanctions slapped by the U.S. Treasury. Do you think perhaps Mr. Trump's tweet enticed North Korea to come back to the joint liaison office?
I think it was intended to have such an effect upon North Korean leadership, enticing North Korean leadership to remain in the mode of negotiations and productive dialogue. But that also implies that it might be too raw as an expression. But basically, Trump administration, after Hanoi summit meeting, is hanging North Korean leadership on a string. Because Mr. Kim Jong-un revealed all his true intentions at the Hanoi summit meeting, but he had to go back home with empty hands. And Mr. Trump learned that at least Mr. Kim Jong-un had no thought-out plans for meaningful denuclearization that is acceptable to the United States. Because when he pushed Mr. Kim Jong-un to think bigger, go bigger, with a complete denuclearization in return for a maximum engagement, the whole package. But Mr. Kim Jong-un was obviously was not ready to give any clear answer to President Trump. So at least for a while, Trump administration is going to try to North Korean leadership to remain in the mode of a conversation and dialogue with the United States, but is not going to lower the bar of demands for North Korea's demands to be accepted. So sanctions will remain in place. That is the lesson clearly delineated by the Trump administration at the Hanoi summit meeting. So as long as Trump administration remains firmly believing that as long as there's economic sanctions on North Korea, time favors the United States, then there will be a lot of back and forth, sometimes contradictory messages and actions by Trump administration to keep North Korean leadership, hanging in the air.
I think it's a very interesting point you brought up there that Kim Jong-un wasn't quite ready because he was a well-known diplomatic strategist. Now, in his tweet, President Trump used the term additional large-scale sanctions, which U.S. officials later clarified that they are the future sanctions that are set to be imposed on North Korea. What kind of sanctions, what kind of future sanctions do you think Mr. Trump was referring to?
Well, I mean, it is only known to President Trump himself, right? That is the beauty of his maximum pressure, maximum engagement strategy, which makes things so difficult for Kim Jong-un leadership in North Korea because you can't really guess anything right? Nobody really can tell with confidence what the next step will be taken by Trump administration. When the Treasury Department had announced the additional sanction measures, in the next step, the White House, denied that, we don't need additional sanctions. But in the next step, President Trump tweeted that bigger sanctions might be coming. So, as I said, that it is very difficult for North Korean leadership to make any educated guess about what will be the next step taken by the Trump administration, which enforces the bargaining leverages of the Trump administration. That President Trump is basically sending the same message to Mr. Kim Jong-un in North Korea that I have all the prerogatives. I can make it really, really difficult for you by tightening the economic sanctions. Look at what our Treasury Department is ready to do. But at the same time, I can stop additional sanction measures if you follow the demands by the White House. But if you take too much time, then bigger sanctions will follow. Something bigger than the Treasury Department has just announced to carry out. So from the standpoint of the Kim Jong-un leadership of North Korea, things are so uncertain and unpredictable.
So President Trump's maximum pressure tactic right there. Now, various inter-Korean projects are now put on hold. Video reunion of war-torn families need to be sorted out, while a joint recovery operation that are set to be held in April are also, North Korea has yet to respond to that as well. How do you think these stalled projects will proceed in the future?
Well, it's going to be the loss of North Korean leadership because let's turn the clock back to this time last year. It was a very euphoric mood on the Korean Peninsula with the Pyeongyang Winter Olympic Games and a lot of inter-Korean cooperative projects and the exchange of people and cultural events. But same time in the year 2019, after the collapse of the Hanoi summit meeting, then things are very uncertain and pressures are increasing. But if North Korean leadership is not going to carry out the agreements signed by both leaders, Mr. Kim Jong-un and Mr. Moon Jae-in of South Korea, on September 19th last year, then domestic mood or public opinion in South Korean society will not favor North Korean leadership. That more and more South Korean public will be believing that same again strategy by North Koreans. It is only for tactical gains. North Korean leadership cannot be trusted to move forward toward more peaceful, more stable security conditions on the Korean Peninsula. That is the loss of North Korean leadership.
North Korea, however, is continuing to ramp up pressure on South Korea. Just yesterday, on Sunday, North Korea's, through its propaganda outlet, 우리 민족끼리, North Korea bluntly criticized South Korea for its lack of ability to act independently from the U.S. Now, how should South Korea take things from this point on, now that it's sandwiched between Pyongyang and Washington?
South Korea has been sandwiched between North Korea and the United States in the past, and it will be sandwiched between North Korea and the United States in the future if South Korea is not going to achieve the right conditions on the Korean Peninsula to make it as an effective arbiter and at the same time important stakeholder. North Korea was the aggressor in the Korean War in 1950, but at the same time, South Korea cannot hope to achieve peaceful unification without cooperation from North Korea. But at the same time, South Korea cannot move together with North Korea for peaceful unification and at least peaceful coexistence with North Korea without keeping its security partnership with the United States effective. So you have to think about all these matters in the whole package. South Korea is a stakeholder or the player on one hand, but at the same time, arbiter between North Korea and the United States, still adversaries since the time of the Korean War. So South Korea does not need to lament its position between North Korea and the United States, but it is a hard reality. So it has to build upon that hard reality, what kind of role in a given condition, in a given circumstance, it is going to play. So it's not either or. That's a false choice. The right choice for South Korea is to be the effective arbiter, but at the same time, effective stakeholder at the same time.
Now, how do you see the possibility of an inter-Korean summit? And when do you think the best time of it would be?
The best time for inter-Korean summit meeting between Mr. Kim Jong-un and Mr. Moon Jae-in of South Korea is when conditions are ripe, that the fourth meeting between them will be likely to produce kind of outcomes that will bring back Washington and Pyongyang on a meaningful negotiation table. Otherwise, the timing itself is not that important. More important condition for the fourth meeting between President Moon Jae-in and Chairman Kim Jong-un is whether South Korean government has any good ideas or plans to persuade the North Korean leadership to propose the kind of denuclearization, kind of a small deal at least, that will make Washington interested in coming back to a negotiation table with Pyongyang. With its own concessions, they will meet the demand by North Korea in terms of sanction relief.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's close aide Kim Chang-sun stayed in Moscow for about 5 days, and he's now reportedly in Vladivostok. How do you see the possibility of a North Korea-Russia summit?
It is likely, but I would doubt that even if summit meeting between Russia and North Korea will be so helpful for North Korea to escape from current difficult situation. Think about it. Russia cannot really change the whole dynamics of the existing economic sanctions on North Korea, although Russia, alongside with China, Great Britain and France and the United States constitute one of the P5 members. But as long as there will not be kind of groundbreaking concessions by North Korean leadership in terms of agreeing on meaningful steps toward the denuclearization, then Russia's autonomy will be quite constrained. And what about China? China is now in the middle of the trade war with the United States. So any missteps by Chinese leadership will give the good excuse to Washington to criticize China as a willful supporter for North Korea, a country responsible for making North Korea sticking to its nuclear missile programs. So China will be waiting until it will solve its own problems with the United States over trade issues. And South Korea's maneuvering room is also limited. It cannot really resume the operation of a Gaesong industrial complex or Mountain Gyeongang tour site. Japan may be interested in solving the abductee issues and normalization with North Korea, but those negotiations must be supported by North Korea making concessions on denuclearization. Otherwise, Japan will not move independently from the United States for these matters. So North Korea may seek help, extra help from China, Russia, or any other countries, but as long as United States will not see any clear sign that North Korea means business of denuclearization, then North Korea's attempts to take a detour will be quite limited.
Now, days ago, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee has said that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un or any other highest body of North Korea's politics would soon make an official announcement on North Korea's post-Hanoi plans. What kind of diplomatic strategy do you expect from Kim Jong-un?
I guess Kim Jong-un has not reached a conclusion yet, what to be included in the alleged announcement. I think he's still in the process of putting exact words in the message to be announced after the Hanoi summit meeting. That explains why North Koreans have been taking these zigzag steps, that it withdrew its members from the liaison office in Gaesong, but a few hours later it sent back the members. It has threatened Washington about possible, new way, but the new way has not been really carried out. It urges the Moon Jae-in government to be more independent from the United States, being true player, not just arbiter. So we see a lot of contradictory messages coming from the same source, Pyongyang. So that means that the Kim Jong leadership has not been really in the final stage of taking the next step in the aftermath of the Hanoi summit meeting without any agreement with the United States. That is the price that Pyongyang is going to pay, because it seems like Mr. Kim Jong-un did not have any plan B when he was going to meet President Trump in Hanoi.
Well, the two Koreas now are at a crucial crossroads. We'll have to keep a close eye on how things unfold. Thank you so much for your insights today.
You're welcome.